So, hello everyone. So here we will be discussing, in this we are going to be discussing about Dr. James Watson, who is one of the renowned scientists, okay, known for his discovery of the DNA structure, right? And along with Francis Crick, so which had been a revolutionizing discovery, okay, which gave her us understanding about the chemistry of DNA structure. It about how DNA transfers its information, okay, onto the next generation. How does it, express gene expression? How DNA, how the gene will, transfer its information, and how does gene expression happen? About the DNA sequencing, all that, right? So here we'll be discussing one interesting relationship, quite interesting, with two great female scientists of two different eras, okay, of two different times, but who kind of had a great influence on James Watson, okay, or the other way around. So it's a pretty interesting relation. So we will see this, okay. So this is like a tribute also, kind of a tribute video as well to James Watson. Okay, yeah. So one first is obviously Rosalind Franklin, right? So Rosalind Franklin and Watson, they both had one kind of a very interesting relationship with each other. Okay, they shared. So it was a relationship that had scientific tension. Okay, personality clashes, and they had their approaches were very contrasting when it comes to deciphering the structure of DNA. So Rosalind was an expert in the X-ray diffraction and X-ray crystallography part. Okay, she was very good at that. So she was very good at the experimental part of how finding out the structure of DNA. And she's known to be very much what to say, a very much bold woman, right? A bold female scientist, a very she didn't she knew what she is doing, right? She didn't depend on anybody else. She didn't want to assist anybody else, so she worked on her own actually. So, and this is profound because that at the time, that when a world was dominated by men, she was like independent woman. She wanted to do her thing or her own thing because she had her expertise at that field. So she didn't want to be like a simple assistant and just doing some menial work. She actually did a breakthrough discoveries in the finding out the structure of DNA with her own expertise. And she was known to have a radioactive temper. That's the temper that was described by James Watson actually. And now she had this and she didn't want to work with anybody. She had a great deal of friction with Maurice Wilkins, who she was supposed to work from start. They didn't work together, okay. So yeah, this had been one of the important like controversies or some problem that they had actually. Uh, so Watson actually described Franklin, especially in the earlier work. He described her had to be like dismissive and condensing. Okay, and he called her no, Rosy. That was the nickname given. So so she disliked that, and she was shown to be like unwelcoming and stern kind of a woman, kind of a scientist, because she was pretty solid. She was not a diplomatic person. She was very solid at her points. Okay, she focused on crystallographic data, and she was very much skeptical of the model that Watson and Crick had made up. So one of the important feedback that was actually important was, so the model that they had placed the phosphate backbone in the center. But phosphates are negatively charged. So if they are in the center, or if they faced inwards, then they would repel, okay, and forcing the molecule to fly apart. So to solve this issue, they had inserted a positively charged magnesium ion at the center of the helix, and like a last minute dab. But Franklin, her measurements had suggested that the magnesium cannot be in the center, right? And the structure was not at all good. It didn't have much thing to pack the water molecules enough inside. Okay. and they had forgotten the wetness of DNA, which was one of the first discoveries Rosalind Rosalind did on DNA structure. So yeah, so these features, this simple feedback, this very feedbacks which she had given were actually very important and profound, as we know that the phosphates are actually supposed to be there on the backbone of the DNA, right, and not on the center. They have to face, and how they are facing, how they this is all important. Where the magnesium ions are, okay, that all will it actually was important because okay, to know how the DNA actually not goes on, does its replication for transcription, all that, it is very important. So okay, so next another, okay, so as everyone know, the famous 4251, right? So Rosalind Franklin's data, that is 4251, was one of the most important data because it gave an understanding about the helical structure of DNA. Okay, and but Watson and Crick had used it without her consent, which does raise some ethical questions. Uh, so though early they had in the earlier times they had conflicts, but later on Franklin did eventually did respect the double helical model. Okay, so if to know more about this, you can refer the book The Gene. Read the book The Gene by Siddhartha Mukherjee. It's pretty good book. It does show, it does acknowledge that historical overshadowing Franklin had. Okay, her contributions were not recognized or not given importance because of gender biases and all that. Okay, so this book is pretty good. You can give a read. So the next one of the great female scientists, okay, the second is Dr. Jennifer Doudna. So she's obviously known for her discovery of CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing system, which is a profound discovery, and it is one of it is of today's time. It's a profound discovery of today's time, right? So the relation they both had was more like Doudna had was influence kind. Okay, so Watson had really influenced her in her scientific aspirations, okay, and perspectives. Uh, Not like through direct interaction, but she had influenced by she was inspired by the book okay, that was brought to her by her father when she was young. That is the Watson's famous double helix. Okay, and she saw it and she read it. She was fueled with curiosity and drive, and which obviously led on to she became a biochemist, right? So he had a great inspiration he had on Jennifer Doudna. So Doudna had admired the scientific story of Watson and Crick's discovery of DNA structure. Okay, and that gave like her understanding on chemistry and biochemistry, genetics, and molecular biology in a very early life, which gave which had been like fundamental for her scientific advancements and achievements. Uh, so though she had a great inspiration for Watson, but she did recognize. So later part, Watson actually gave some controversial and some biased statements and views he had, which were very unscientific. Okay, and and that she did recognize, and she rejected those views and those controversial views he had. Okay, and the views, those controversial views and those statements had actually put later part of Watson to become not much like liked in the scientific community. Okay, so his statements were very controversial and biased. uh, so Watson, but later Watson had recognized, and before that Watson he was disproving of everything and all that. But Watson himself had later he had recognized the work of Doudna, okay, in CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing, calling it to be the most important discovery since the structure, since DNA structure. So that is pretty profound because it kind of links those their legacies together, right? It's pretty good. So in this book, so in the book Codebreaker, that is written by Walter Isaacson, okay, he covers this meeting that they had, Watson and Doudna. Though Doudna, but she had like a mixed feeling. She was sad and she didn't like really, she had a mixed feeling about agreeing to go and meet him because of these controversial statements and all that. But she did it because he had a great influence on biology and genetics, and his influence on science, right, and all that, and research and all that. But and all the influence he had, obviously inspiring her to become a biochemist. So yeah, so this is the like a interesting perspective I just want to give, a perspective or relationship that Dr. James Watson had with two profound female scientists, okay, who is known to who were like who had a different kind of relation with him, okay, and yeah, so this is sort of so though yeah, so though Dr. Watson is obviously renowned for his discovery and his contributions are endless in this world, you know, but the relation he had with Rosalind Franklin and Jennifer Doudna were very different. With Rosalind Franklin, he had more sort of like there were a lot of biases that had happened with gender biases that whether her contributions were not recognized well enough. Um, okay, and where actually kind of she just because she were little different at her way of uh, doing her work, right? And whereas Dr. Jennifer Doudna, she had a great inspiration. She actually her scientific, she wanted to, her scientific discovery, her, being a biochemist, being a great biochemist. It kind of she got inspiration actually from Watson, right, in a very young age, and from then going on to actually doing, discovering something again profound and then getting that appreciation from Watson himself is pretty much a big deal, right? So, but later part, as I told you, Watson did say and some statements which are very made him unwelcoming. It was yeah. So that kind of shows that you need to know your stuff. You should actually be it's good to have a scientific being a scientific, genius and all that is pretty important, but also you should be mindful with your what we say and do. Okay, what we say actually. Okay, so yeah. So thank you, everybody.